All right, everybody. So I'd like to welcome everybody to Pro Talks today. We're going to talk a little bit about EV. It's really exciting to be the EV guy here amongst probably 98% diesel and gas-powered transmissions and engines. So it's going to be an interesting speech, and I'm sure everybody's out there betting on how tall is he? I'm 5 foot 19 inches, if anybody's wondering how tall I am. So we'll start there. My name's John Thomas. I'm the COO of Autel Energy. What do we do? We're an EV charging company. I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years in both in the commercial vehicle side and the car side. Obviously, we spend as a country and as an industry talking a lot about the car EV transition. Now we need to start talking about the other side of the world, because this is the side that moves all the materials and goods around the country. So it's a very important topic. So we're here to talk a little bit through that. For those of you that haven't heard of Autel, we actually have two sides of our business. We're not an EV startup like a lot of the companies that are out there. Autel makes automotive and commercial vehicle diagnostic tools and equipment. Both our booths are down the hall just over here. And Autel actually stands for Automotive Intelligence. So that makes us pretty unique in this space when we talk about EV, because we actually understand what goes on inside of a vehicle, right? So we diagnose what's going on with the systems and the nodes in a vehicle through the OBD2 sensor into the CAN bus and into the vehicle itself. That's pretty unique in the charging space, because most of the people that you're going to run into in the charging space are cloud connectivity people, software people, some hardware people here or there. We kind of do it all. So we're a global company. We operate, our headquarters is in New York in the US, in Shenzhen in China, and in Munich in Germany. We've been doing this for almost 2 decades already. So as I mentioned, we're not a startup. So we really understand the field that we're playing in. And we do business in 70 countries around the world. So we would say, probably in the aftermarket, we're probably the largest #1 supplier of automotive diagnostic tools and equipment. And we're moving our way up in the EV charging space very rapidly. We have nearly 2,000 employees, and what I think is most unique about that, 60% of those employees are engineers and technicians. So what does that allow us to do? That allows us to move fast, to develop things, and to pivot. And that really does help with our market, because the EV market is evolving very quickly, and that allows us to be very responsive to customers when we find something's going on or there's a need out there in the marketplace. We're able to do that really quick and efficiently. And we serve almost 500,000 customers worldwide today. So when you talk to Autel, you're talking to a company that's really vested in this space. We're going to be around for a long time, and we're doing all the right things. The other cool thing about Autel is when you talk about us, we have a full product line. So what does that mean? It doesn't matter what type of vehicle you have. If you have everything from a Class 2 all the way up to a Class 8, we have something to fit into those categories and really have a product for that. And the little guy that looks like a robot in the middle with the wheels, that's actually a portable charger. So it actually plugs in the wall, and if you don't know where your truck is going to be or where your vehicle is going to be, it allows you to pull that charger around to it. So that's a pretty unique product in the market. It's a DC product. It's 40 kilowatts. It's not a high-powered device, but we do everything from 9.6 kilowatts all the way up to 720 kilowatts. So what does that mean? A 720 kilowatt device can power a big Class 8 truck if it needs to. We have put a little video together here.
Introducing the DC Fast, a game-changing solution in EV fast charging. Built on 2 decades of experience in automotive technology, reliability, and quality. Our DC Fast Charger is a sophisticated and sleek unit that seamlessly integrates with the fast-paced and rugged operations of modern truck fleets. Your fleet can't afford downtime, so the DC Fast was built with operational excellence and reliability in mind. This means it has built-in diagnostics and over-the-air update capability and has been tested in some of the harshest environments to ensure your fleet is up and running 100% of the time. From anywhere in the world, our Autel Cloud allows you to use our screens to advertise, monetize, or communicate any message to your drivers. This makes the DC Fast a one-of-a-kind communication solution. The simple modular design gives you the control, The DC Fast can dispense a whopping 240 kilowatts of power, or is capable to use less modules and build up the power as your fleet grows. The transportation industry is quickly going through a transformational shift of technology and electrification. The DC Fast lets a user pay through several different payment options. This allows a fleet to monetize their chargers in any way they see fit. And with a universal CCS connector, it plugs into any vehicle. The DC Fast intelligent design allows multiple trucks to charge simultaneously across multiple chargers. The charger automatically and continually monitors the available power from the grid and balances the power across all chargers and trucks to ensure all your trucks receive equal power and your system never exceeds the available power coming from the grid. Our 4K high-definition display allows a driver to see charging process in real time, providing charge status, cost, and how much power has been dispensed into their truck. Autel, powering the planet.
So, for those of you who've read a little bit about what's going on out in the charging industry today, there's a lot of challenges in the charging business, right? And it all comes down to hardware at the end of the day. Is that hardware reliable? Does it work? And does it work with quality? And I think that's what makes us unique at the end of the day. We're an automotive grade company, so we're designing and develop things to automotive standards and quality standards. And we know, whether it's a truck fleet, whether it's a user, that thing has to be up and running all the time. It doesn't happen very often where you go to the gas pump and the gas pump's not working. So we have to have the same level of standard and quality in this business. And when you talk about that, right, a lot of people are talking about this 97% uptime, if you read anything about what's going on in EV charging today, and that's the benchmark. If we can get to 97%, well, 97% in this market with operators isn't good enough. So we're aiming at 100%. It has to be. But if it does go down, we've kind of constructed this thing so it can be fixed really quick, it can be diagnosed remotely, and you can send a tech out and have it up and running again in several minutes. So let's talk a little bit about the EV truck market and what's going on. So if you look at it, look at adoption in this space, right? And it makes a lot of sense. The long haul space is going to be the longest level of adoption out there in the marketplace. And then as you go towards regional and urban hauling or last mile delivery, those are going to be the earliest adopters because they have the best use case for EV, right? The vehicle is going from one place to another and back to the same place, and it sits for a period of time. So as we go through this journey, we have to figure this all out, right? Because we have to have use cases for everybody, right? And maybe EV isn't the right solution for every long haul operation. But what I have seen over the past years, we went through COVID, and we went through that, a lot of people have gone to hub and spoke solutions, right? So they've gone to shorter runs, get people home at night, and the trucks are sitting for a period of time. So this is kind of what we see in the adoption side. And then on the regulatory side, what you see there is you got EPA with the ACT Act, so the Clean Advanced Truck Rule, right? And so there's a lot of states adopting this rule. They're starting to move that direction. So far 6 states have stepped up and said, we're going to support this rule and we're going to start to push that. And what does that rule mean? It doesn't mean that everybody has to have a clean truck, but the new trucks coming out for sale have to meet that clean standard. So they have a kind of a phase-in period over a period of time out till 2035 that they have to sell more and more and more and more clean trucks. So eventually those are going to get into the system, and those have to run off of different fuel types, right? Whether it's electric, hydrogen, CNG, or whatever. Those 6 states, though, this is the nuance, represent 20% of the fleet that's out there. So the momentum is going that way, right? When you grab that much of the market, you grab that size of a population of the market, what you're going to see is that we're going to have this kind of adoption across country. And out of that, 16 states have already said by 2050, we're going to net zero. So net zero means complete clean, right? So whatever that means in terms of clean vehicles, that's where we're headed. And coming soon, we see beyond those 6 states, 12 more coming really soon. So this is coming. It's coming like a freight train. It's coming to all sectors of transportation, and we want people to be prepared, and we want to help people get from point A to point B. We realize not everybody's ready for this journey. If I polled everybody how many EV drivers are in the room, I expect I'm going to get, well, let's see, how many EV drivers in the room? All right, one over there. So you can see, like, most people aren't even driving car EVs yet, right? But once you do, it's a great experience. You really love it. I am not a tree hugger, by the way. So I drive a 1965 Mustang, 350 horsepower. I also have an EV. So I love both ends of the spectrum, but it's really important. It's coming fast. So talk about use cases, right? So now we're going to talk about CapEx and OpEx. So on the operational side of the business, right? So when we look at EV charging versus fuel charging, there's been many studies that are basically saying it's about 0.025 cents less per mile to operate with electricity, looking at the whole spectrum of what that means. On the EV charging side, on the CapEx side, if you're actually installing and operating a fleet and you want to put this in the ground, there is an initial upfront cost. There's leasing models, there's utility programs, there's all kinds of ways to get there, but you really have to start to think about that as part of the fleet cost at the end of the day. Because if you're going to have that at your depot, you need that infrastructure to go with it. On the driver's side, it's no surprise, right? We've been struggling since COVID and before to get people in the seats, right? It's the next generation of younger people don't want to drive over-the-road trucks for whatever reason. They want to be home at night, play their video games, whatever they want to do. I have kids, so I know that. They hang out in the loft all the time playing video games all day. But really, as they go to the EV experience, it also helps with that experience a little bit because the trucks are different, right? They're gonna be quieter. They're gonna ride different. If you drive an EV, I drove an EV Lightning the other day. It drives completely different than the regular F-150. The weight is distributed better in the truck. It rides smooth as silk. It's quiet, and it goes like hell. So we think there's really a big benefit from the driver and the safety side because now you don't have the external noises, you don't have those distractions going on, and really you can concentrate on what you're doing as driving. And then if you look at the maintenance component of this on the operational side, right, the maintenance is also very important because maintenance costs are something that hits the fleet every day, right? And as we go into this, into EV, the maintenance profile changes. There's a lot less wear and tear parts on an EV. The batteries obviously are a wear and tear part, but the batteries are getting better and better. They're lasting longer and longer. Like a lot of times now they're saying with in the car segment, the battery's going to outlast the body of the car. So as we're getting further and further, technology's getting better, the battery range is getting better, all those things are improving. But you also go through a lot of brakes and stuff on a truck, right? So now we're talking about regenerative braking, which is using the motors of the vehicle to slow the truck down. So you're not replacing brakes, you don't have oil changes and all those other things. So in general, we're not trying to convince everybody to be an EV advocate at the end of the day, but there is a lot of benefits to EV as you look at it. And this was a study done by McKinsey where they looked at different classes of vehicles and looked at the cost of ownership per mile. And categorically, in every category, it didn't matter what type of operation it was, what type of use case it was, the electric use case works out better financially for those fleets. So where do you start, right? We talk about infrastructure. It's much like everybody else, the car dealerships are going through it today. They're like, we want to sell cars. We don't want to put electricity in our, we don't even know anything about electricity. So what you got to start first is I think you need to talk to people, right? You need to talk to people who already have an EV vehicle in their fleet, have some experience, right? Have already made some of the missteps, the challenges. And, you know, Autel's talking to these people, so we have those experiences to share with people. You know, you need to understand your scenario of your fleet, right? Are you a last mile, a mid-mile, a long haul? You know, where do you fit in that spectrum? Because that's what is going to set up your charging profile. When you need to charge, when you have time to charge, when the truck's sitting idle, all those kind of things. And then the other thing is the vehicles you're looking at, right? How much power can they actually take? So that's one thing we're running into. In our country, we're deploying a lot of heavy infrastructure, right? We're spending billions of dollars to put EV charging out there in population. And frankly, guys, that's all aimed at the car market. Nobody's thinking about the trucks, right? You can't pull a Class 8 rig into those spots. It's not going to happen. So we need a monumental shift in what's going on in Washington to think about the rest of the people, right? the people that drive trucks every day, because we got to charge somewhere too. So, you know, when you talk about batteries, not every battery can take as much power as some of these devices can put out. So this is kind of like everybody's going, go faster, go bigger. That's our motto as a country. But if the battery can't take it, it doesn't matter, right, if that infrastructure's out there. And then when you're deploying power at a site, right, some of these sites don't have a lot of power at them, right? If you have a fleet and they're out in the middle of nowhere, they don't have that power. So you got to start thinking about the power part of this. So you got to talk to the utility, see if there's power nearby, if the utility can get you power. Once you have that power there, can they get a big enough transformer? Can they get big enough switchgear? All those things are things that need to be thought about really early in the process, way before the truck's even bought. The very first step, talk to the utility. Tell them what you're going to do, what you're thinking about, what kind of trucks you're thinking about buying, and I think that will really help you to start guide this process. So, as we talk about what's the right approach from the product side, right? So, I work for Autel, so I'm going to tell you Autel's the best, but I really do truly believe that at the end of the day. So we would recommend working with us, obviously, but we can do everything for you from level 2 to level 3. So we got all those products to work on. But as I started this, if the charger doesn't work, then the rest of it doesn't matter, right? So the most important part, and that's where we put all our effort, all our engineering into, is making reliable, high-quality hardware. We have software and all the back end to monetize it, to understand it, to make sure it works so that you can control it. You see who's charging when, where they're charging, all that stuff. We have that, right? But if the hardware doesn't work, then the rest doesn't work. And there's lots of stories out there about hardware that doesn't work. And there's lots of stories about, hey, the hardware went in the ground, I never heard from that company again. You don't want that in your business. You're running a business now. It's not about, do I have a place to charge? It's about, can I operate my business at the end of the day? So when I talk to people and I talk to the media, they're like, what's different about Autel? And I said, we call people back. And they're like, what's so big about that? And I'm like, oh, you haven't been in the EV charging business very long. The bar is super low. So, and that's true. Our team really calls people back. So we have people online to call people. We have engineers here. We talk to our customers, and we really help them through that. And then from our diagnostic DNA, we can diagnose 70% of the potential failures in that charger remotely from our back end. So what does that mean for you? We roll a truck one time instead of multiple times. So if something goes wrong with the charger, you don't have somebody out there, an electrical company, looking at it and then driving away and then coming back later with a part. We can figure out what's going wrong. We can do an over-the-air update. This is just like a Tesla. We can do an over-the-air update, fix it, or if we got to fix it with a hard part, they can take the hard part with them. So we're really thinking about that whole event and trying to make it easy and trying to make it less costly. And then I'd already talked a little bit about the cloud connectivity and software. A lot of people are using telematics. A lot of people are using other softwares. We can work with you to integrate those into the software package of the device, really, and work in concert so you don't have to use multiple software packages. So a lot of charging companies won't do that. So we're very flexible. At the end of the day, we're not a charge point operator. We don't want to operate these charge points. We want to help people, give them the tools so that they can be successful in their businesses. And that's what we do best. And then as you think about it, as we talk about a lot of power, so as you get into higher power realms, so if you have a ton of trucks or you have a big fleet, you really need to think about power, and you need to think about supplemental power sometimes, because the utility may not be able to give you enough power, so you may need battery storage, you may need solar, you may need things that bring power into the site when nobody's using it, store it, and then you can deploy it when you need it. So the journey may be beyond just charging. It may be the whole thing. You may have to look at battery storage. You may have to look at solar. And as I said, we have our cloud, and our cloud's pretty unique because we can do remote maintenance, we can do advertising or communication. I think in this space, communication's really cool. All our chargers have screens on them. A lot of people don't get to talk to their drivers at the end of the day, but their drivers show up at that screen every day to unplug the truck. You can send a message to that driver specifically. We want to engage these people because sometimes we don't see them, and maybe you send a message and your HR department says, hey, you need to fill out your paperwork, and by the way, Bob, happy birthday today. And you can send a video, right? They can do whatever you want on that screen and promote those messages. And a lot of people, when we talk to fleets, they're pretty excited about that, like, because they can't normally spend a lot of time with the folks that are really out there on the road. And then just in summary, we can help with your EV strategy. I mean, that's why we're here today. We're actually at booth 150, just down the aisle here, about 4 or 5 booths. Can't miss us, the big green booth with the container in it. We bring partners together, so we don't have the whole solution, but we have partners for installation, for working with the utilities, for working with the cities, doing O&M on the backside if you want somebody to maintain or even to operate these things for you. And obviously we have a full line of high quality products. So really we want to support your operational goals. As I say, we want to be part of your story, not have you be part of our story. So that's a really big difference in this space. A lot of people want you to be part of their story. So we're willing to work with you, find the way, and find the best path to make us all successful together. And I think, if you remember anything out of this presentation, green means go, green means good, green means power, green means money, green means Autel. Drop the mic, take the odors. Thank you. So, do we have any questions? Aaron, he's got a microphone. Oh, there's one over there too. Go ahead.
Are you guys involved in the megawatt charging as well?
So we haven't started with megawatt charging yet. That's we have it on our roadmap, but we decided that wasn't the first place on our roadmap to go because it takes a ton of power. It's a big commitment from a city and a utility to pull it off, and you put 10 megawatt chargers together, and you can power an entire city. So it's definitely something we see, but not in the short term.
What kind of a timeline?
Megawatts probably 2 years out.
Okay.
For us, but we go up to 720 kilowatts today.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep. This gentleman over here, Aaron, in the blue.
Great presentation, and thank you.
Thank you.
Question, what is the average charge time now based on today's technology, and what's the goal for charge time when you pull up and you plug in?
That's a really hard question to answer because it has a lot to do with the battery capacity.
Correct.
It has a lot to do with the speed of the charger,
Yep.
and if the charger stays at that speed for very long.
Correct.
So our target, though, is to get someone out in and out in under 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's obviously, based on, it'll vary based on the size of the truck.
Size of the battery, size of the truck, capacity of the battery, all
Okay.
those things.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? I love the question about how great my presentation was, so. Over here.
So private charging, like depot charging first, and then off to sometime down the road,
Public
charging, and what's in between? Do you get some thoughts on what's kind of in between the two?
So I call this charging 1.0, what we're doing today, right? It's getting infrastructure where we need it, and I agree with you. It's probably depot first. Public's going to be a big lift, right? Because you're talking about high power public charging and space, enough space to put enough trucks in one area, one category. It's really, those are the two first steps. Beyond that, I think we're going to be using so much energy that we need to start doing energy management, energy balancing. So what does that mean at the end of the day? This is bidirectional charging. So bidirectional charging is when that truck is idle and it's not doing anything. In the middle of a city somewhere, we have a fleet of batteries, right, that we're able to store energy in and push and pull energy in and out of. We talk about this in the school bus industry a lot. We talk about the car park. As we get more and more batteries out there, we have more places to store energy. A lot of traditional vehicles, a lot of light-duty vehicles sit 90% of the time. So they're going to be full of power, and if I use AI and technology, I can start to pull that power out and put it in other places where I need it. And that's how we're going to get through the energy component of this, right? Everybody's like, is the grid going to be able to handle it? The question is, can we store it somewhere? Because that's what's going to fix the buffer in the middle. So does that mean build up huge battery banks? It might be, but it also means utilizing the batteries that are out there in the best way possible and monetizing those, right? So everybody goes, well, it's my power. I don't want anybody to take my power, right? I paid for it. Well, if the smart way to do it and it pulls it out and they pay you back and you put it back in or pull it out and push it, then you don't care, right? That's what people care about is, am I getting paid at the end of the day? And how do we do that? That's the next step. That's 2.0 plus. Over here.
Hi. You said that people wouldn't care if the energy goes in and goes out, but ultimately, with every charge or discharge, my battery degrades.
Potentially, yes.
Right.
Yeah. This is why I say it's further down, right? Battery technology, energy management, and technology to control it all.
And I mean, you kind of answered the question with regard to, say, long distance EV trucks. I don't see anything coming up very quickly because now you see the scenarios where truck drivers drive an hour to find a parking spot.
That's right.
Now they have to drive or wait 2 hours to find a charging
To
spot.
find a
that's
charger.
empty, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Long haul is going to be a challenge all the way around. That's what hydrogen, CNG, maybe.
So
You work for the hydrogen guys, right?
I own a heavy truck parking lot in Oklahoma, and we're looking at expanding Grand National parking. Thinking about the future of EVs is something we're kind of considering. What kind of power do you need to charge a truck overnight at a slower rate than your Class 3 charger or whatever? How much power is needed if you were going to do 10 or 20 trucks a night?
So it's a calculation that can be done, but I'm going to tell you, you probably need over several megawatts of power coming into that truck station, truck depot.
So if you're looking to locate facilities nearby, is it nearby a substation, nearby a power plant, nearby?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Adequate available power is going to be your biggest challenge, right? And some of the companies that are deploying EV charging stations, they're putting a big solar farms next to them and stuff like that, right? And storage and other things. Any other questions? All right. Oh, one more.
How far away do you think you are on heavy haul capabilities?
That's what we just talked about up here. So we think that's the furthest away.
Is that 5 years, 10 years?
I can't say because it's so much related to infrastructure and power availability and all those things. It's going to take some time. Battery development. I think it's the last, and that's what the chart up there shows too. It's the last.
What's the current distance that EV trucks can go?
Distance as far it really depends on the truck and the battery size. So it's really truck by truck, right? So
Maybe range from 150.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question. I'll make it up, but I don't know. Is there any truck guys here that have EVs? In the very back.
I've read that the batteries in a Class 8 truck typically now are weighing 20,000 pounds, which is a great payload detractor. Is that current technology, or is there something that's less heavy than that in Class 8 trucks?
I would say that I don't see any lighter battery technology coming out anytime soon. Right? They're trying to increase the density of the battery technology, but as far as weight distribution, it's still a penalty. I think those are things that we have to deal with on a regulatory side, because obviously you don't want to haul less stuff because you have to haul more batteries, right? So I think this is the balance that we have to do on the regulatory side of the market in Washington with the Federal Highway Administration.
So if I could take a stab at two of the questions here. The ranges that I've heard for EVs, as you say, it varies, but anywhere from about 150 to 350 miles is currently what manufacturers are building. And what was the other question?
I had the same thought, but I didn't want to say it. Was that any data?
Well, I'll say it for you because I know I've heard that from,
Yeah.
and I've driven a couple of the EVs that are out there now. Oh, the battery and the weight issue.
Yeah.
They are allowing a 2,000-pound exemption for EVs to
Exemption.
run 82,000 versus 80,000 because you don't have an engine, you don't have fuel tanks, so it's not a true 20,000-pound penalty.
Right.
But they are allowing you a little bit extra weight to compensate for the weight of the batteries.
battery. Thank you. Appreciate the help from the back of the room. All right. Oh, another one in the front.
Thank you. I think I missed the first minute or two, so I apologize if I ask you a question that you may have covered.
I'm John Thomas.
John.
Oh, no, oh, you don't. Not there.
I'm curious about Autel in your trajectory in the near term. Who's a good fit for you in terms of a customer? What kind of customer is a good fit for you right now? And then down the road, how are you looking to grow and serve the industry?
So from Autel's perspective, we've identified like 19 different verticals of customers. So there's a vast amount of customers. We deal with everybody from utilities to fleets to convenience store operators to fueling station. I mean, it's really vast. So because we have such a expansive product line, we can pretty much play in every category, right? So I would say everybody that's pivoting into EV pretty much is our customer today. And we got them coming at us in droves right now. Yeah. I would say if I went to an EV conference 3-4 years ago, it was tree huggers. And now I'm at an EV conference and I got business people, right? That's the pivot, what I see in the space, right? People are being told by their company, their owner, their ownership, go figure it out, right? And most people are like, I know how to plug in a microwave. Like, I don't know anything about high power and transitions to power and stuff like that. So, you know, the reason we're here talking today is I feel like we're in this space. We have to be good stewards of that space. We have to be thought leaders in that space. We have to help people there to get through it. So there's so much BS, to be honest, out there in the marketplace. It's hard to know what's what. As many people are fighting for it, as many people are fighting against it. And that's the challenge in our world today. You know, information's easy to get to, but is it all good at the end of the day? So that's our story. I'm sticking to it. Anybody else? All right. Well, I really appreciated your time today. I appreciated you coming to see us, and please come down and see us at our booth. And if you have any questions that you didn't want to ask publicly, we can hang out here and talk to you. All right? Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the show.